the business itself was fundamentally founded to try and bring a level of standardization to DNA engineering, kind of like DNA Lego, essentially. What we found as the company went into its second year was we had learned a lot about the way in which pieces of DNA work. And in doing so, we felt that we could grow up the value chain by using that DNA platform to develop things that are more complicated. So things like viral vectors for gene therapy purposes, modified cell lines for manufacturing applications. The company is transformed, in comparison to when I started it. I mean, I essentially started the business in my bedroom. That was pretty much how it began, and very much on a shoestring. So we didn't have enough finance to get our own laboratory. So when you compare that to where we are now, we've got about 20,000 square feet of facilities. We're in the process of refitting about 6,500 of those square feet with state-of-the-art automated platforms for cell line engineering and viral manufacture. So the company is completely and utterly transformed. I think the main other thing that has changed is when you start the business, you essentially have to be a jack of all trades. You're doing everything. You're learning how patents work. You're learning how websites work. You're learning about finance. You're learning about legal. And what you thankfully find is as the years go by, you surround yourself with a team of people who are significantly better than you are at all of those different parts. And certainly the interactions with Mercia have been very helpful in bringing those people on board.
I think the last 6 months have really been when we've started to see everything fall into place. So we've reorganized all of the teams to align with that future direction. And that's created a much clearer focus. That's both internally and externally. So now it's a lot clearer, I think, on what OXGENE is and where we want to be going. And when everyone knows where you're going, it's an awful lot easier to get there quickly. So the last financial year for OXGENE has been, in the end, a really successful one.
Maybe two different challenges, I suppose, that we faced along the way. One is you start a business with a view as to what the business model will be. And I think it's very rare that a business in the end is just based on that concept that you started the business with. I think you have to adapt as you go, partly in response to the changing commercial environment. New competitors, new technologies might come along, and very sort of coldly assessing where your technologies sit in comparison to those new technologies and those new competitors that are coming along is essential, because it's, you fundamentally believe in your business, and to turn around and say, actually, I've got to change the business model, I've got to adapt to the environment, is something that's quite difficult as a founder, because you've invested so much in that initial concept. So it's something we've done multiple times. As I said earlier, we started with one approach to the way in which we thought we'd scale the business, and we've adapted that as we've gone. So that's certainly been challenging. It's something that we even now are still doing. I think also having the conviction, once you've made that decision, to see that change through, because you really have to get the whole company behind you in order to enact those changes. I think the other challenge, I would say, is also knowing when to raise the right amount of capital and how to deploy that. I've often said, if OXGENE had the amount of money that we have raised particularly over the last few years, in the early years, I would have spent it on the wrong things. That certainly would have been the case. So, knowing at what point the business had technologies that could be supported with capital to grow it more quickly, doing that at the right time has certainly been a challenge. And as you rightly alluded to, the growth that we have seen brings challenges as well. Mercia's model is definitely different. And I think being able to work with the same investors from that very early seed investment all the way through to now, which have been multiple million size rounds, has been great. It's been really good, because they understand where the business has come from. Mark Payton, who we've been working with now for, as I say, 7 years, has been really supportive of the business and helped to connect us to other investors as well. So I do think the Mercia model is different. I do think it's been really important for our growth, and it's just been very important for me in terms of being able to understand what we need to do to position the business right for other investors. So yeah, it's been great working with Mercia over the years. It's going to be transformational for us in terms of our capabilities and our capacity. It also gives us a chance to overhaul some of the existing space that we've got. I think the other thing that it's allowing us to do is set up some of our processes more like an assembly line, so more like an automation, like you would essentially see in a car manufacturing facility. The majority of things that scientists do at the bench are quite complicated, and for that reason, it's very difficult to automate them. But it's not impossible, and I think it's something that people start to consider too late generally in the process of building out their companies. It improves margins, it reduces error, it increases capacity, it provides a huge number of benefits over doing it manually. And it's exactly the reason that things like cars are assembled in the same way. It just is a very efficient way of delivering things consistently over and over again. But I think we're all really pleased about. It'll give us the much needed space that we've been looking for a number of months now. And we hope to get the keys to that at the start of August.
Obviously, we need to work our way out of the situation that we're all in, but let's just assume that that happens. You know, this is a business that's going to be highly successful if we can stay agile as we have been so far. And that's a challenge as you grow. So it's not something that I say lightly. We have some really clear ambitions and plans to deliver those, but we always have to consider the changing needs of our customers, trends in the market, changes in the economy as we've just experienced. All those things will influence where we go as a business. But the important thing is to keep listening, to keep watching and adapt as we go through this journey. You know, we want to deliver long-term value and best service to our customers, value to our shareholders, of course. But the long-term goal, I think, for me personally, what I feel is most important to you know, keep at the front of my mind is that we realise all of the business's full potential, but without impacting the fantastic culture that we have here. You know, the strength that we have is the people and the organisation, and with growth, you have to be extremely mindful to be able to sustain all of those really strong elements.
For me personally, as a scientist and the person that founded the company, the next year I think is going to be one of the most interesting and one of the most exciting. And there's a reason I say that. And when we essentially changed the business about 4 years ago towards focusing on just mammalian cell engineering and mammalian work, that kicked off a number of research projects. And there was 3 of them which we've invested very heavily in the last 3.5 years. All 3 of them will be coming to market within the next 6 months. So it's going to be transformational. And I think all of the platforms that we have developed, in my opinion, as a scientist, I would believe are transformative in their respective fields. So as a scientist, I'm really, really excited. Obviously, as the person running the business and having invested collectively so much in it, and a major team effort over the last 3.5 years, I'm also really excited for the business. So I think it will be, without doubt, one of the more exciting years ahead for the company. So I'm truly excited about it.